So you just waste another day. Again. You said you'd do it tomorrow, but tomorrow never came. You told yourself you were tired, that you needed a break, that you'd start once things felt right. But somehow things never feel right, do they? Days blend into weeks. Weeks blur into months. And slowly, your plans turn into memories of what could have been. You scroll, you watch, you distract yourself, you whisper, "I'll start after this video." But the next one plays, and then another, and another. And deep down, that quiet voice speaks again. You're wasting your potential. You feel it, that gentle sting in your chest. Not because you failed, but because you know you're capable of more. You have dreams, visions, moments that make your heart come alive. But your mind, it resists. It convinces you to wait, to stay comfortable, to fear failure more than regret. And without realizing it, you become your own cage. But here's the truth. You can't control the world around you, but you can control the world within you. Your thoughts, your emotions, your focus, your discipline. Because the real battle isn't out there. It's in here. The good news, you can learn to win that battle. You can train your mind. You can silence the voice that says tomorrow and act today. Because when you control your mind, you control your life. If you're tired of starting over, if you're done letting days slip through your fingers, if you're ready to reclaim your focus, then this is where your journey begins. Welcome to the sovereignty within learning to master your mind. Let's begin. Your mind can be your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. If you don't train it, it trains you. If you don't lead it, it drives you. Every emotion, every hesitation, every distraction is your mind testing who's in control. You either command it or you obey it. No middle ground. This audiobook is your training ground to become mentally unshakable, emotionally untouchable, and disciplined beyond impulse. Because when your emotions obey you, the world follows. Chapter 1. Rule your thoughts before they rule you. Everything you want begins and ends in your mind. Before you speak, you think. Before you act, you imagine. Before you succeed, you believe. And before you fail, you give in mentally, quietly, long before the world sees it. Every outcome starts in the mind. That's not a slogan. That's not an inspiration post on a wall. That's reality. You are always training your mind right now, in this very moment. You are either practicing control or you are practicing chaos. There is no neutral state. There never was. The person who wakes up and chooses their thoughts creates direction. The person who wakes up and drifts through emotion creates confusion. You are always in control of something. Either your thoughts control your day or you do. One leads to discipline, the other leads to destruction. You have a choice. That's the key. When you rule your thoughts, you're building your life from the inside out. You're not reacting to every impulse, every fear, or every wave of noise around you. You command your state. You design your reactions. You build your world not with luck, but with leadership over your own mind. Direct the thought. Direct the life. Let that sentence sink in. Say it again. Direct the thought. Direct the life. Every time your mind starts to wander into fear, into negativity, into doubt, you bring it back. You redirect. You command. You take ownership. People fool themselves into thinking that thoughts are random, that emotions just happen. They're not random. They're habits. And habits can be broken, retrained, rebuilt. You're not a passenger inside your own head. You are the driver. Take this seriously. Your thoughts shape your focus, and your focus shapes your outcomes. What you dwell on expands. That is a law mental, emotional, spiritual. Think long enough about defeat and your actions start matching that story. Think long enough about discipline and you start becoming the kind of person who commands follow through. That athlete you admire, the one who always seems confident, focused, unshaken, they're not lucky. They're not just born with control, they trained it. They rehearse their victory in the mind long before the game starts. The repetition of visualization, of discipline, of mindfulness, it's not fancy, it's command. Every rep in the gym, every early wake up, every focused breath under pressure, Those are not just physical actions. Those are statements. I lead my thoughts. Because the athlete who can't lead their thoughts folds the moment failure whispers. The one who can wins before the whistle blows. Your life is no different. Every profession, every dream, every pursuit requires mastery of your inner conversation. Your mind will tell you stories. It will tell you you're not ready. It will tell you the timing isn't right. It will tell you you'll fail. And that's where control begins, not in trying to erase fear, but in mastering what you do with it. Listen carefully. Ruling your thought isn't about being positive all the time. It's about being in command all the time. You can feel fear without feeding it. You can notice doubt without obeying it. You can experience anger without letting it steer your actions. That's real control. That's emotional leadership. Every time your mind throws a useless thought at you, resentment, envy, anxiety, you have one job: stop feeding it. You don't win by fighting it. You win by starving it. Attention is fuel. Give your power to disciplined thinking, and undisciplined thoughts die of hunger. Direct the thought, direct the life. It sounds simple. It is simple. But simple isn't easy. You must repeat it. Drill it. Etch it into your brain until it becomes your default reaction. You catch yourself drifting into fear. Direct the thought. You start worrying about others' opinions. Direct the thought. You feel lazy, distracted, unfocused. Direct the thought. That's how you shift from reactivity to control, by pulling your attention back on command. Mental control doesn't happen overnight. You have decades of programming in your head that were not chosen by you. Society, family, social media, critics, all of them have been trying to write your thoughts for you. And if you don't take that pen back, they'll keep writing your story without your consent. You don't need their permission to reclaim control. You only need awareness and repetition. Awareness to recognize the thought, repetition to replace it, day after day, hour after hour, until your new identity becomes automatic. You have to train this as deliberately as an athlete trains their body. A champion doesn't say, "I'll try to be focused today." They command focus daily because they know it's survival. You must treat your thoughts the same way. This is mental conditioning. You're sharpening the blade every single day. It's not about motivation, it's about control. Motivation fades, emotion lies, control stays. Control tells you when to show up, how to show up, and why you can't quit when feelings shift. Understand this: every disciplined person looks calm, but their calm is built on a battlefield. They wrestled their thoughts countless times until their reactions became precision. Do not confuse their composure with passivity, its power in silence. You can start this training immediately. Here's how. Begin by catching your first thought every morning. Not your phone, not your worry, not your to-do list. Your first thought. Ask yourself, is it intentional or is it leftover chaos from yesterday? If it's reactive, replace it immediately. That's called mental hygiene. Next, practice visualization deliberately. Pick one goal. 1. Close your eyes and replay it as if it's a movie, not as a fantasy but as training. See yourself executing the process, not the outcome. Why? Because process is where control lives. This is how leaders become unbothered. This is how warriors remain unmoved. They don't rely on emotion, they rely on repetition. They train themselves to choose thoughts that create action. You will fail at this sometimes. That's good. That means you're paying attention. The goal is not perfection, the goal is command. You correct, you replace, you reinforce, again and again. You don't shout at your mind, you guide it. You don't fight for peace, you build it. Remember, you are always practicing something. If you let your thoughts run wild, you are practicing weakness. If you take ownership of them, you are practicing strength. Every day, every hour, you're programming the next version of yourself. People love to say mindset is everything. That's incomplete. Controlled mindset is everything, because an uncontrolled mind destroys as fast as it creates. Your job is not to think more, your job is to think better. Thought discipline separates leaders from spectators, clarity from confusion, peace from panic. So start leading inside before demanding results outside. Lead your thoughts, command your attention, direct your mind. Because what you think consistently, you become permanently. And what you direct repeatedly, you dominate eventually. Control your mind or it will control you. That's the rule, that's the truth, that's the beginning of self-mastery. You've taken the first step, learning how to command your internal world. You've faced your thoughts and replaced chaos with clarity. Now that you've learned to master what happens inside, it's time to confront what tests you outside. You know thoughts come first, but emotion is what follows. Now, you'll learn to rule your emotions. You are not weak because you feel. You are weak because you let what you feel decide what you do. Emotion is natural. Reaction is optional. That's the difference between amateurs and masters, between victims and leaders. Feelings were never meant to be your master. They were built to serve your logic, your mission, your principles. When emotion leads, chaos follows. When discipline leads, emotion obeys. You have a choice. That's the key. Every day you will feel something that challenges your control. Anger that demands reaction. Fear that demands retreat. Excitement that demands impulsive decisions. But you are not your feelings. You are the one who decides what they mean, what they're worth, and what happens next. Feel, don't follow. Say it again. Feel, don't follow. Those 3 words are the difference between a breakdown and a breakthrough. Feeling is instinct. Following is choice. You can't stop emotion from showing up, but you can stop it from steering the wheel. You've been told for years to follow your heart. That advice ruins more lives than failure ever will. Your heart is emotional. Your discipline is rational. Your power lies in commanding both, not worshipping one. This is how you start losing authority over your life, by mistaking emotional noise for divine guidance. You feel tired, so you skip the work. You feel disrespected, so you lash out. You feel afraid, so you hesitate. Each moment is small, but together, they build a pattern. Your emotions become your schedule, your excuse, your script. That's how most people live, and that's why most people stay exactly where they are. Your discipline must rise higher than emotion, or emotion will drag it down every single time. This is emotional leadership, the ability to experience a surge and stay unmoved, to feel deeply but to act deliberately, to hear the noise but move by logic. It doesn't mean you suppress emotion. Suppression is weakness disguised as control. It means you contain emotion. Containment is strength. Suppression hides emotion like a child hiding a mess under the bed. It will explode later. Containment channels it like electricity, useful, directed, controlled power. Feel, don't follow. It needs to become a reflex. When anger rises, don't follow. When excitement spikes, don't follow. When doubt whispers, don't follow. You can feel them all, but they serve you, not the other way around. Let's talk about mastery under pressure. The surgeon's hands don't shake when the room panics. The pilot doesn't crumble when an engine fails. The soldier doesn't freeze when bullets fly. They all feel fear, but they don't follow fear. They let logic lead. That's why they're trusted with life itself. You want emotional strength? Build it by pressure testing your calm. Start small. When someone insults you, pause. When a meeting derails, breathe. When life provokes you, observe. The emotion is not your signal to act, it's your signal to master response. Feel. Don't follow. That is emotional discipline in 6 letters and 1 command. It anchors you in chaos. It gives you space between trigger and reaction, the space where leadership lives. People think leadership is about control over others. It's not. It's control over yourself in front of others. Leaders in pressure zones don't lose their heads because they've trained their emotions to report to logic. They've installed the hierarchy. Emotion serves, logic commands. When logic commands, you see more clearly. You can act strategically, not impulsively. You become trustworthy, not because you make everyone happy, but because you don't collapse under heat. That's the strength people feel from you, the aura of emotional authority. The world respects control because it's rare. Everyone feels, few lead. But let's be honest, you won't nail this perfectly every time. You will slip. You will follow emotion when logic told you to wait. You will regret words, actions, decisions that came from reaction instead of control. That's fine. That's feedback. That's your training report from your own mind. Every failure of control teaches you your triggers. Every emotional outburst reveals a weak boundary. And every recovery, every time you notice the pattern and correct it, builds mental muscle. This is emotional resistance training. Building emotional command is like lifting weights. You don't just want to feel better, you want to get stronger. And strength requires resistance. That means situations that test you are not distractions, they're your workouts. You need that co-worker who irritates you. You need the delay that frustrates you. You need the chaos that tempts you. Each one is a representative, a chance to feel and not follow. Most people crumble under emotional storms because they label them as interruptions. Masters see them as invitations to practice control, to apply logic, to demonstrate leadership under pressure. Here's how you begin to reclaim emotional authority. Step 1. Name the emotion the moment you feel it. That awareness alone returns half your control. This is anger. This is anxiety. This is fear. When you name it, it loses disguise. Step 2. Pause and breathe. Space equals strength. You cannot command when you're drowning in reaction. Step 3. Ask, what would discipline do? Not, what do I feel like doing? Discipline tells the truth. Emotion gives excuses. Step 4. Act deliberately. It doesn't need to feel good to be right. Repeat this process until it becomes second nature. It's not magic. It's training, repetition, replacement. You have a choice. That's the key, always. And remember, feelings themselves are not the enemy. The enemy is submission to them. Emotions bring energy, color, life. Logic brings structure, direction, control. Combine emotions' energy with discipline's command, and you have unstoppable force. Emotion alone is chaos. Logic alone is sterile. Together, under your leadership, they build mastery. The mind leads, the emotions follow. This is the inner order of control. When emotion tries to lead, remind it who's in charge. You don't need to destroy emotion. You need to domesticate it. Like fire uncontrolled, it burns everything. Controlled, it warms, it cooks, it forges. Emotion is fire. You are the blacksmith. That's the role of mastery, commanding the flame without being consumed by it. When someone provokes you, when anxiety rises, when chaos strikes, you tell yourself, feel, don't follow. You breathe, you measure, you act with clarity. That's self-leadership. That's emotional command. And when you live this way long enough, something extraordinary happens. You stop being emotionally reactive and you become emotionally predictive. You know exactly how you'll respond to storms before they even arrive, because you've built a system inside you stronger than the noise outside you. That's power. That's control. That's what separates emotional masters from emotional victims. Remember, feelings serve your mission. Logic steers your action. Emotion sits in the passenger seat now. You drive, you decide, you direct. Control your emotions and you control your future. Let them run wild and they will run your life. You've learned to think deliberate thoughts. Now you've learned to feel without following. You are building hierarchy inside your mind. Thoughts lead, feelings follow, behavior obeys. And that's how power begins. Now that you can stand calm in chaos, we move forward. Because after ruling thought and emotion, only one battle remains, the battle of impulse, the subtle destroyer of progress. You've built logic over emotion. Next, you'll learn to conquer impulse over reason. You'll never think your way into confidence. You act your way into it. That's the truth most people ignore while they sit in the mental cage called overthinking. Overthinking is not intelligence. It's not being careful. It's fear wearing the mask of preparation. It's your mind pretending to protect you while it quietly paralyzes you. You tell yourself you're analyzing, strategizing, calculating. You're not. You're avoiding. Overthinking is mental procrastination. It feels like progress, but it's delay disguised as diligence. You cannot lead your life while sitting in hesitation. You have a choice. That's the key. Decide fast. Correct later. That's how confidence is built, action by action, failure by adjustment. No plan survives reality unscarred. The people who win are not the ones who think most. They are the ones who move, observe, adapt, and move again. They don't demand perfect conditions. They create clarity through movement. Understand this, you will never figure it all out in your head. Life only reveals itself to those who move. Action teaches you 10 times faster than thought ever will. That anxiety you feel before acting, it's energy that hasn't been directed yet. Once you move, the anxiety burns itself into momentum. Action kills anxiety. Say it again. Action kills anxiety. Say it until it becomes automatic. When the mind starts spiraling, you stop thinking and start doing. You speak, you step, you move, you build evidence of control. Here's the paradox of overthinkers. They believe the more they think, the safer they are. Wrong. The more you think without acting, the more fear you feed. Because overthinking and fear work like a loop, fear starts it, thought amplifies it, inaction locks it in. You break that cycle only by movement. You cannot think your way out of a mental trap, you must act your way out. Every high performer knows this. The entrepreneur who launches before they're ready, the soldier who moves under uncertainty, the artist who paints without a perfect plan. They act first, then gather clarity from the feedback reality provides. Because clarity is not the prerequisite for action, it's the result of it. The mind wants safety, action demands risk. But only one of them creates progress. You can sit in fear for days, spinning scenarios that don't exist, imagining problems that may never happen. All that thinking creates no real data, only stories. Only action can tell you truth. Action kills anxiety. That needs to be your trigger phrase, your command. The moment your brain starts replaying the same question for the 10th time, stop, move, small step, any step. Create evidence that you are alive, capable, decisive. The greatest entrepreneurs don't wait for perfect timing, they make timing perfect by acting when others hesitate. They build the plane while flying it. They figure it out while doing it. That's not chaos, it's courage, refined through motion. You don't get ready, you become ready by doing. Do you know what's worse than failure? Regret. The pain of slow inaction corrodes confidence far more than the pain of trying and falling short. At least failure gives feedback. Overthinking gives nothing but fatigue and doubt. Every stall, every delay, every let me think about it moment costs you opportunity. You could have learned through experience while you were still trying to make it perfect in your head. That's the tragedy of overthinking. You think you're gaining control, but you're silently surrendering it. The longer you wait, the smaller your courage becomes. That's why decisive people seem bold. They refuse to let their mind stall. They know the waiting voice in their head is not logic. It's fear pretending to be wisdom. Act now. Refine later. That's the system that builds unstoppable velocity. When you decide fast, something powerful happens. Your belief strengthens. You start trusting yourself. You stop relying on outside approval because your mind learns a new pattern. I can move even when uncertain. Action breeds confidence. Inaction breeds insecurity. That's the psychological math of discipline. Every time you act, you train your mind to associate motion with safety. Every time you hesitate, you teach it the opposite, that overanalysis equals protection. And so you slowly build mental fragility instead of mental durability. You have to recondition this pattern consciously. Here's how. Step 1. Recognize the loop. The repeating thought cycle, what if I fail? What if I choose wrong? Is your fear in disguise. Notice the rhythm of it. Step 2. Interrupt it. Say it out loud if you must. Stop. I already know enough to start. Step 3. Act on something small. Send the message. Take the step. Hit record. Start writing. Momentum destroys overthinking. Step 4. Review after, not before. Stop trying to perfect a decision before it's made. Make it, then adjust with the new information reality gives you. Action kills anxiety. That's your internal operating system from now on. You don't wait for calm to move, you move to become calm. You don't wait for confidence to decide, you decide to create confidence. The difference between discipline and doubt is speed. Discipline acts despite confusion. Doubt delays until clarity magically appears, which it never does. Overthinking convinces you that waiting longer produces better answers, but waiting longer produces weaker action. Your best clarity lives on the other side of motion. When you find yourself trapped in thought next time, remember this. The world doesn't reward those who think best. It rewards those who act consistently. Thinking can be infinite. Action is measurable. You cannot overthink your way to progress. You can only do your way there. Ask any pilot, too much hesitation at takeoff kills lift. The power has to build continuously, or the plane never leaves the ground. So it is with your momentum. Build thrust through constant intentional motion. Entrepreneurs know this truth well. They don't wait until conditions are perfect. They launch, they fail publicly, they adjust privately, they scale through repetition. Clarity arrives in the doing. Execution teaches more than any plan. So when uncertainty rises, when your thoughts start spinning in a fog of what-ifs, ask yourself one question. What's the next physical action I can take right now? Then take it. That breaks the chain. That restores control. You don't need a 10-step plan to start. You need one motion forward, one call, one sentence, one representative. Remember, perfect timing is fiction. Perfect clarity is a myth. There's only imperfect action done with perfect focus. The people who transform their lives are not the ones who never hesitate. They're the ones who break hesitation faster every time it appears. Every delay is one more day your dreams remain prisoners of your fear. You control your thoughts now. You control your emotions. And now, you control your action. This is where mental strength becomes physical evidence. Because if you can move under uncertainty, you become unstoppable. You build a mind that doesn't need guarantees to execute. You become a person who acts first, learns faster, and never lets fear disguise itself as logic again. So the next time anxiety climbs, repeat it to yourself until it becomes reflex. Action kills anxiety. Action kills anxiety. Action kills anxiety. You do not need to know the whole path. You only need to take the next step. Movement creates clarity. Clarity creates control. You've escaped the prison of overthinking. Now that you've broken free from hesitation, it's time to talk about the energy that will carry you forward, the focused power that separates the disciplined from the distracted. You've mastered motion. Now it's time to master aim. Attention is the currency of power. Whatever owns your focus owns your future. Focus is not optional, it's survival. You think you can afford to be distracted? You can't. Every time your mind drifts, you lose ground. Every ping, every scroll, every pointless conversation pulls strength from your discipline. People think focus is a mood. You either feel focused or you don't. That's false. Focus is not a mood. Focus is a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows from deliberate repetition, from strain, from resistance. You don't lose focus because you're weak. You lose it because you haven't trained it. That's your first truth. The modern world profits from your distraction. Everywhere you look, something wants your attention. You're being pulled by design notifications, noise, endless novelty. You think you're living freely, but you're operating like a hostage with an open cage. You're free to leave, but you don't, because your mind has forgotten how to sit still. You have a choice. That's the key. You can train your focus like a warrior, or you can give it away like a fool. One choice makes you powerful, the other makes you programmable. Protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Say that again. Protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. It really does. Every meaningful result you produce, money, fitness, mastery, peace, comes from your ability to lock attention on what matters and hold it there long enough to create impact. Distraction doesn't just cost minutes, it costs meaning. Look at any elite performer, athlete, entrepreneur, soldier, artist. Their secret isn't motivation, it's attention discipline. They understand there are two modes of existence, scattered or sharp. You can't live both ways. Choose. A warrior trains focus under pressure. Battlefields aren't quiet. The same rule applies to your life. Chaos doesn't excuse you, it trains you. You don't wait for silence to focus, you build focus inside the noise. That's how mastery is born. Here's the truth. The quality of your focus determines the quality of your life. You think too shallow, you live too shallow. You focus too short, you achieve too little. The longer you can hold attention on one thing, the more power you generate. Focus is concentration multiplied by discipline. It's the ability to sustain deliberate thought in a world that glorifies distraction. You must treat focus like it's sacred, because it is. Protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. When you sit down to work, the war begins. Don't expect it to feel easy. It won't. Focus costs energy. It fights against your brain's craving for stimulation. That restlessness you feel when you try to concentrate, that's your mind detoxing from the sugar rush of constant distraction. Don't quit. Endure it. That's you rebuilding endurance minute by minute, session by session. A distracted person will never control their mind because distraction keeps them in reaction. The warrior, however, acts by focus. Focus gives direction. Distraction steals identity. Build your mental muscle deliberately. Here's your tactical blueprint. Mental drills. Start with 15 minutes of uninterrupted single task work. No phone, no notifications, no switching tabs, no breaks. 15 minutes of pure locked attention on one target. Then stop. You've just completed a mental workout. You didn't just work, you strengthened endurance. Each drill conditions your brain to resist stimulation and obey purpose. Do this daily. Tomorrow, do 20 minutes, then 30. That is focus hypertrophy discipline in action, attention under command. Imagine what happens after 30 days of this practice. Your concentration solidifies, the noise fades faster. You train the ability to enter deep work on demand. That's what separates achievers from floaters, the capacity to go deep without being derailed. Don't underestimate how rare this is. Most people live in microbursts of distraction, 5 seconds of awareness, then gone again, dopamine shot and repeat. They never taste mastery because mastery requires monotony, the same task, the same focus, until results multiply. And yes, monotony is boring, but boredom is just your brain asking for novelty instead of discipline. You train focus by starving that novelty. You tell your mind, we're staying here until it finishes. At first, it will fight back. You'll fidget. You'll grab your phone. You'll justify little breaks. All weakness starts this way, rationalize distractions. But remember, this is mental lifting, and every rep you push through makes you stronger. Your focus muscle tightens. Your patience solidifies. Your chaos turns to clarity. That's the evolution of mental command. Every time you break distraction, you say to your mind, "You serve me." Every time you finish a task without splintering your attention, you're asserting dominance over the mental noise. That's not small, it's warfare. Now, don't confuse focus with intensity. Focus is not about grinding hard for 2 hours and collapsing. Focus is about precision. Choose the single highest value target, remove everything else, and give it total attention until it's done. That's mastery. Remember the rule. Protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. You only have so much energy per day. If you waste it on fragments, checking, scrolling, reacting, you'll never have enough left for building, creating, conquering. Train it everywhere. When you talk to someone, focus fully. When you eat, focus fully. When you read deeply. Your ability to sustain awareness in any activity rewires your brain for control. You'll discover something remarkable as your focus sharpens. Peace. Real peace isn't found in stillness. It's found in discipline of mind. The scattered mind is anxious because it's pulled in 1,000 directions. The focused mind is calm because it knows its next move. That calm is confidence. That calm is control. That calm is the quiet power of mastery. And it all begins by acting like your focus is sacred because it is. Here's how you protect it in a distracted world. Set boundaries on attention. Turn off notifications, create protected blocks of undisturbed time, build rituals that reinforce consistency. Start your work sessions with a countdown 3, 2, 1, lock in. End each focus session with reflection. Ask yourself, did I give full attention or partial attention? Because every time you settle for partial attention, you train partial life. Focus is full presence. Focus is power. Focus is your proof of control. No one can steal your mind unless you let them in through attention. So start guarding your mind like a fortress. Stand at the gate. Decide what gets in. That's how warriors treat focus, not as a feeling, but as a strategy. When you live this way, everything changes. You accomplish in 1 hour what distracted people fail to do in 5. You see what others miss. You finish what others abandon. You become rare, and being rare in a distracted world is power. So repeat it again until it anchors into your mind. Protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. You've learned to think clearly, feel calmly, act decisively, and now sustain relentless focus. You are shaping mental endurance most people never taste. But the world will still test you with chaos, with setbacks, with pain, and that's the next frontier of mastery, holding your control when everything hurts. You've learned to focus when things are steady. Now you'll learn to stay calm when everything burns. Chaos isn't coming. Chaos is already here. Every single day the world will test you, delays, betrayal, traffic, criticism, rejection. The myth is that someday it slows down, that eventually life becomes calm. It doesn't. The truth is simpler and far more powerful. External chaos is guaranteed. Internal chaos is optional. That's the real divide between the fragile and the strong. Weak minds insist on controlling everything around them. Strong minds learn to control one thing inside them, the way they respond. Control begins where reaction ends. You can't stop storms from coming, but you can stop yourself from drowning in them. You can't control what people say, but you can decide what meaning you give it. You can't control every outcome, but you can control who you are through the outcome. That's self-mastery, when your identity isn't dictated by circumstance, only by principle. You have a choice. That's the key. Every time something hits you, you have 2 seconds to decide whether you'll react or respond. Reaction is instinct fast, emotional, undisciplined. Response is leadership measured, deliberate, calm. Response is power. Say it aloud. Response is power. Again. Response is power. It's not just a phrase, it's a blueprint. Your pause is your proof of control. The few seconds between trigger and answer are where strength is built. Most people never find that pause. They run on autopilot. Anger flares, words fly, damage follows. Apologies can't repair reactions made in haste. Every reaction costs energy and credibility. But the ones who pause, breathe and respond, they become immovable. They conserve power instead of wasting it proving emotion. Think about it. The loudest person in the room rarely holds the most control. The calmest one does. The calm negotiator wins because emotion never dictates voice, timing, or tone. While others leak control through noise, the disciplined one commands through silence. That silence is not weakness, it's strategy. The calm mind sees the entire board. The reactive mind only sees the fire in front of it. The further you can extend the space between what happens and how you respond, the stronger you become. That's the muscle you train every day, resisting the need to immediately react. When life swings, pause. When emotion surges, breathe. That's not apathy, it's awareness. The goal isn't to suppress emotion, it's to channel it. Energy must move, but through logic, not impulse. Your heart can burn, your pulse can race, but your actions must stay measured. You want to feel powerful? Then train your response to be deliberate when every instinct screams for chaos. That's control, at its highest level, feeling fire inside, but projecting calm outside. Response is power. You must drill this thought until it becomes muscle memory, because life will test you, and when it does, no one cares what you meant to do, only what you actually did. And what you do is shaped entirely by how you respond. The best warriors, the best leaders, the best negotiators, they all master this art. They understand that control doesn't mean having no emotion, it means emotion never hijacks behavior. Why do surgeons remain steady under pressure? Why do pilots stay monotone in emergencies? Because they know panic spreads faster than logic. They understand that one flinch of fear can infect the entire system, so they anchor themselves in composure. Their tone becomes the room's temperature. That's what discipline looks like in motion. Response dictating the environment, not reaction absorbing it. You can build this ability daily. You don't need battlefield pressure to practice it. Start training your response in normal life, when someone cuts you off in traffic, when your plan breaks, when someone criticizes your work. Those are micro battles for emotional command. Right when you feel that spark, don't react. Pause. Count 3 breaths. Observe what's happening inside you before you decide what happens outside you. That gap is where freedom lives. You might think this is small. It's not. That pause rewires your brain. Neuroscience shows deliberate pauses activate logic over limbic reaction. It's physical proof that calm protects clarity. Now repeat it again. Response is power. People confuse strength with aggression, but real strength is restraint. The fighter who swings first usually loses. The master who waits, assesses, and strikes once with precision wins. Every day you face dozens of tiny provocations. Most will come disguised as urgency, emotion, or insult. Respond with speed, and you become their puppet. Respond with calm, and you stay the one pulling strings. Power is not controlling others, it's controlling yourself in front of them. When you show calm under chaos, people listen, they lean in. Because composure communicates something words never can. I own this moment. That's why calm is feared, because calm means clarity, and clarity wins. If you want to start applying this, here's a simple drill. Step 1. Identify your triggers. Notice what consistently steals your calm. People, events, patterns, write them down. Awareness is half the fight. Step 2. Create the gap. When triggered, plant one physical gesture into habit. A breath, a touch to your ring finger, a mantra. That's your signal to pause. Step 3. Replace reaction with decision. Ask, what response protects my power right now? Not what feels right, but what protects strength. Step 4. Execute with precision, speak slowly, move deliberately, hold tone steady. Calm execution under heat multiplies authority. The calm negotiator wins, always. Because they never rush to prove control. They are control. When you learn to respond instead of react, you shift from powerless to powerful, from victim to leader, from chaos to command. And here's a truth that will follow you forever. The world will never stop throwing obstacles. You'll go from one arena of chaos to the next. Each time you'll face that same question: will I react or will I respond? Choose response, every time. Because the moment you choose response, you choose control. You choose growth over emotion, discipline over drama, power over panic. Response is power. Let that phrase live in your bloodstream. When life hits, when anger spikes, when fear whispers, say it to yourself before you act. Response is power. You can't control what happens next. You never could. But you can always control how you show up to what happens next. And that difference determines everything. When you master response, life stops pushing you around. It can nudge, provoke, or pressure, but it can't penetrate your peace. That stillness inside you will become your armor. You'll walk through confrontation with patience and through uncertainty with precision. And that's when calm becomes command. You've learned to focus deep and respond with discipline. You've proven that control isn't avoiding emotions, it's mastering reactions. But there's another level of control ahead beyond chaos and response. It's the daily war between discipline and distraction, between impulse and commitment. You've trained the pause. Now you'll train endurance. Your mind is a garden and every thought is a seed. You don't get to skip planting season. Every day you plant something: doubt or discipline, weakness or strength, chaos or control. And whatever you feed grows. Always. That's not positive thinking. It's psychological physics. You cannot water resentment and expect peace. You cannot feed fear and expect courage. You cannot nurture distraction and expect focus. Your results are the harvest of your thoughts. That's why mental management isn't optional, it's survival. You have a choice. That's the key. You're not a victim of your thoughts, you're the gatekeeper. Every time a weak thought enters self-pity, fear, envy, excuses, you either feed it or starve it. There's no neutral option. You keep watering weakness, it will choke out your strength. You neglect it, ignore it long enough, and it dies on its own. What you feed grows. Repeat it. What you feed grows. That law will determine who you become. When weakness speaks, your job is simple. Redirect or reject. That's your mantra. Redirect or reject. You decide which mental habits live inside you. Your mind has squatters, old beliefs that have never paid rent. They occupy space meant for courage, strategy, and peace. Every time you notice one, evict it. Replace it with something disciplined, deliberate, and useful. You say to yourself, I'm not enough. Redirect. I'm not finished yet. You say, this is too hard. Reject. Hard means progress. You say, I always mess up. Redirect. Every failure is feedback. Your thoughts lie. Every single day they whisper fear disguised as logic. You're too late. You're too tired. You're not like them. Catch these lies immediately. They are elite imposters of truth. That's the real power of awareness, recognizing the voice of weakness before it becomes your reality. Redirect or reject. The self-aware person doesn't avoid negative thoughts. They intercept them. They don't suppress the voice. They rewrite it. They journal it. They reframe it. They detox it. Weak thoughts don't surprise them anymore because they know weakness is part of being human. Feeding it is optional. So how do you starve weakness and nurture strength? It's not philosophy. It's process. Here's the iron rule. Intentional thinking. First thing in the morning. Before the world floods you with distraction, set your mind's direction. 10 minutes of clarity sets the tone for 10 hours of focus. Write down what you will think. Don't wait for your mind to decide. It's lazy when unled. You wake up either as a commander or as a captive. Next, build a mental diet. You can't feed your brain trash all day and expect strength to come out of it. Clean mental nutrition means filtering what you consume, because input becomes identity. Ask yourself daily, does this content feed focus or feed fear? Does this environment feed growth or feed gossip? Does this conversation feed energy or feed exhaustion? Redirect or reject? That rule applies to everything: thoughts, conversations, environments, even your own self-talk. Every time you choose not to engage a weak thought, you strengthen your mental immune system. It's like resistance training. The more weight you ignore, the more strength you build. You are training your brain to recognize patterns. If you react, the pattern repeats. If you observe and redirect, the pattern rewires. For example, you take a business risk and lose money. A weak mind says, "I'm terrible at this." I shouldn't have tried. A disciplined mind says, "I paid tuition to the school of experience. Now I know what not to do." Same event, different result. Because one mind feeds growth, the other feeds pity. You must become a ruthless curator of thought. Be selective, be savage. Every idea that enters your head must earn its place. Weak thoughts are parasites. They drain energy, multiply through repetition, and disguise themselves as realism. You don't fight them with emotion, you starve them with truth. The truth is simple. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts live long enough to shape behavior. Say it out loud. I decide which thoughts survive. That's ownership. That's control. A warrior doesn't let thoughts wander, they train them like soldiers. Each one must serve the mission, or it's dismissed from duty. That's what mental warfare looks like in practice. Constant monitoring, relentless auditing, zero tolerance for laziness. Redirect or reject. Let's talk about the daily rewiring process, the method the self-aware person uses to discipline their mind. Step 1. Awareness. You can't starve what you don't see. Keep a daily log of recurring weak thoughts. Write them down exactly as they appear. Naming them takes away their camouflage. Step 2. Reframe. Ask, what is the useful opposite of this thought? Then write that down and repeat it. For every I can't, create I'm learning. For every it's too late, write I'm on time for my evolution. Step 3. Replacement. Feed your brain a new truth. Science proves repeated thought becomes belief. So repetition isn't optional, it's mental training. Every reframed truth must be restated daily until it roots. Step 4. Reflection. Before bed, review your most dominant thoughts that day. Did they work for you or against you? Adjust tomorrow's inputs accordingly. That's how you build mental muscle memory, through consistent replacement, not random motivation. Negativity hates patterns of discipline. It survives on chaos. So once you structure your mind with purpose, weak thoughts lose oxygen. Redirect or reject. Say it until it becomes automatic. The person who masters this becomes untouchable, because the world no longer dictates their internal state. You can insult them, they redirect. You can doubt them, they reject. You can challenge them, they rise. And here's the wild part. When you stop feeding weaknesses internally, most external drama loses its grip too. Half the chaos you experience comes from amplifying it with thought. Take that away, and the noise outside becomes irrelevant. The more disciplined you're thinking, the more peaceful your life. Peace is not the absence of problems, it's the absence of undisciplined thought. That's the paradox of power. Control your thoughts, and everything else slows down. You stop reacting to noise because you've stopped creating it inside yourself. Which is why this chapter exists, to to remind you that your mind is either your ally or your enemy, and that relationship depends entirely on what you feed. Feed mental weakness, get chaos. Feed mental discipline, get control. You can't silence negativity permanently, but you can keep it hungry forever. Just stop feeding it attention, time, and repetition. Redirect or reject. You decide what lives, what dies, what grows. You decide, always. From now on, treat every thought like an investment. If it doesn't add value, if it doesn't support peace, strength, or progress, it doesn't belong in your mind. Audit, delete, replace, repeat. Starve your weak thoughts and watch your inner power expand. You don't need more inspiration, you need better filtration. And the disciplined mind doesn't just think stronger, it feels stronger. Because weakness finally stops dominating its internal world. When you reach that point, when weak thoughts fade and strong patterns repeat, you realize something profound. Mental peace is not granted, it's earned through starvation of chaos. You've learned to control response. You've learned to filter thought. Now it's time to face the next layer of resistance, the invisible cost that comfort brings to your mind, your routine, your destiny. You've learned to think stronger. Next, you'll learn what happens when strength isn't challenged. The greatest threat to your mind is not fear, it's not stress, it's comfort. Comfort is the graveyard of control. It looks harmless, it feels pleasant, but it quietly dissolves discipline, sharpness, and power. The undisciplined mind seeks ease. The mastered mind seeks challenge. One builds strength, the other builds softness. You already know which one wins. Comfort is a sedative. It whispers, "You've done enough. You've earned a break. You deserve to relax." And while you sit still, your edge rusts. Mental laziness begins not with failure, but with small, justified pauses that grow into full-time stagnation. You have a choice. That's the key. Ease is an illusion of safety. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you trade future control for present convenience. You lose sharpness quietly. No explosion, no warning. Just a slow decay of standards until mediocrity feels normal. That's the real cost of mental laziness, erosion from the inside out. Comfort kills command. Say it, comfort kill command. Again, comfort kills command. Let that warning sear into you, because comfort doesn't arrive as an obvious enemy. It arrives as reason. It says, "You've had a hard week." It says, "It's just one day off." It says, "You'll start again tomorrow." And every time you listen, your control dies a little. Discipline demands discomfort. That's not motivational fluff, it's survival for your mental muscle. The mind at rest too often forgets how to stay alert. Just like a body that stops training loses endurance, the comfortable mind forgets how to fight resistance. And what happens then? You stop noticing, you stop pushing, you stop demanding precision from yourself. And life doesn't slow down to match your weakness, it just starts passing you by. Mental laziness is subtle. It rarely looks like failure. It looks like endless planning with no execution. It looks like late starts justified by self-care. It looks like endless excuses hiding under gentle words. I just need balance. But balance is not the issue. Commitment is. Comfort is not rest, it's retreat. Rest is strategic. Comfort is addictive. The difference is intent. Rest rebuilds so you can rise stronger tomorrow. Comfort neutralizes you so you never rise again. Comfort kills command. Think about it. People don't lose their mental sharpness because they get older. They lose it because they stop testing themselves. They stop solving hard problems. They stop enduring tension. They stop stretching capacity. Their mental muscles atrophy, not from years, but from disuse. Age doesn't dull the mind. Idle thought does. Neglect is decay. Look around. You can see mental laziness everywhere. People who gave up their internal edge for external ease. They've traded effort for autopilot, decision-making for distraction, purpose for peace that isn't real. That's the hidden price of comfort. It robs you of challenge, and challenge is the only thing that keeps you alive inside, because challenge feeds discipline. Discipline keeps you alert, and alertness preserves control. When you remove challenge, your edge dulls, your clarity blurs, your motivation dies. Then you wonder why life feels aimless, when you starved your own purpose by refusing discomfort. Comfort kills command. Repeat it every morning you want to quit, every time your body says, "We've done enough." Challenge doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean breaking yourself or burning out. It means choosing friction on purpose. It means walking toward the thing that scares you, because that's where adaptation hides. That's how discipline grows. Under pressure, the heat of resistance forges sharper control. Mental laziness tells you to avoid that heat, to keep things smooth and predictable. Don't believe it. A smooth life is a silent decline. You can't sharpen a blade without grinding it, and your mind is a blade, so grind it daily. Sharpen it with study, discipline, repetition, and challenge. Never let it sit unused, because the untested mind rots. How do you test it? Here's how. Step 1. Do something deliberately uncomfortable every day. Read something that challenges your beliefs. Take on a hard task before your brain has warmed up. Start before motivation appears. Step 2. Cut comfort loops. These are behaviors that calm you but weaken you. Scrolling for distraction, lingering in indecision, spending hours rationalizing instead of doing. Delete one comfort habit this week. Replace it with something productive, even if small. Step 3. Reset your relationship with effort. Effort is not punishment. Effort is practice for command. Every time you feel friction, smile. That is growth knocking. A warrior doesn't crave easy victories. A warrior craves worthy battles. Fight those battles daily, not external enemies, but the internal pull toward numbness. The tragedy of comfort is this: it steals more futures than failure ever could. Failure at least teaches you something. Comfort teaches you nothing. It whispers, "Stay here." This is fine until years pass and the fire inside you turns to ash. When you stop working the mind, you stop owning the mind. And when you stop owning the mind, life owns you. That's the hidden exchange you make every time you settle. You think you're resting, but you're surrendering. Mental control and challenge are married. You can't have one without the other. So stop avoiding challenge. Invite it. Train your focus when you're tired. Practice composure when it's loud. Push when you feel slow. That's how you escape the trap of laziness before it hardens into identity. Comfort kills command. Engrave that line on your habits, because comfort promises peace but delivers passivity, and passivity is the silent killer of progress. Mental laziness doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you to chill, wait, pause, enjoy later, but later never comes. Only lost time, only weakened muscle, only faded potential. Stay uncomfortable, stay curious, stay deliberate. You're not supposed to feel ease all the time. You're supposed to feel alive all the time. And aliveness requires friction. Every day you challenge yourself, you strengthen command. Every day you choose effort, you choose control. And every day you say no to comfort, you say yes to growth. This is how you maintain mastery, not by perfection, but by the refusal to settle. Push your edge again and again until difficulty feels normal. Because once difficulty feels normal, success becomes inevitable. The lazy mind decays in comfort. The disciplined mind transforms it into fuel. Comfort might dull you today, but awareness can snap you out of it in this moment. Ask yourself now, am I choosing growth or ease? If it's ease, stop, shift, move, reignite. You can't control how long you have, but you can control how awake you are in the time you get. Stay alert, stay uncomfortable, stay commanding. Comfort kills command. Never forget it. You've faced distraction, you've built discipline, now you've eliminated comfort, the ultimate thief of control. So what comes next? The repetition, the reinforcement, the structure that turns all of this into identity. You've learned to push through comfort once. Now, you'll learn to repeat it every day until it becomes who you are. This isn't about talent. This isn't about potential. This is about repetition. Control isn't built in a moment of motivation. It's forged in the monotony of showing up when no one's watching. Habits are commands your mind obeys, and repetition is the training ground for that obedience. You are what you repeat. Not what you occasionally do, not what you plan to do. What you do consistently defines what you become permanently. Every day, every hour, you're programming your mind through repetition. The question is, what are you programming it to obey? You have a choice. That's the key. If you repeat distraction, you reinforce distraction. If you repeat delay, you reinforce procrastination. If you repeat discipline, you reinforce control. What you repeat, you reinforce. Say it, memorize it, drill it into your thinking until it becomes instinct. What you repeat, you reinforce. Control isn't some gift you practice once and have. It's repetition that hardens into command. This is how your brain operates. It craves patterns. It loves routine. It follows precedent. Every time you act the same way, your neurons build stronger highways. Think the same thought, your mental road gets smoother. Repeat the same discipline, and your willpower becomes reflex. That's good news or bad news, depending on what you repeat. Because every pattern you sustain, good or bad, your mind will obey. In that way, repetition is either your prison or your liberation. Most people don't lose control, they just repeat carelessness too often. One skipped task becomes comfort. One distraction becomes a habit. And before long, laziness feels natural and effort feels foreign. That's how people drift. Not from one big failure, just repetition of weak habits until weakness feels normal. What you repeat, you reinforce. If that line rings in your mind, you'll never again call a small decision no big deal. Small decisions are repetition in disguise. Every small act teaches your brain how serious you are about command. Discipline is built in the invisible repeater moments, especially when emotions try to override consistency. When you wake up late and still honor your schedule, repetition. When you're tired but still read 10 pages, repetition. When you track your thoughts before bed instead of scrolling a screen, repetition. These things seem small, but they are everything, because habits are commands your mind obeys. Every time you follow through, you strengthen your self-leadership loop. Your mind learns, when I say, I do. That's mental obedience. That's inner authority. Repetition builds it. Nothing else does. Remember this. Emotion can't compete with repetition. You may not feel motivated every day, but you can act disciplined every day. You can teach your mind through repetition that action does not depend on mood. That's why mastery looks repetitive to outsiders. They think, how do you do the same thing daily? Masters smile because repetition isn't punishment, it's prediction. Predictable practice creates predictable power. Let's get practical. Start treating repetition as training, not routine. Those daily rituals you dismiss, waking early, meditating, journaling, training, aren't chores. They are micro drills in mental control, small arenas where you teach your mind to listen to direction, not emotion. When you wake early, you're saying, I control impulse. When you meditate, you're saying, I control attention. When you journal, you're saying, I control awareness. Each act reaffirms the same message. I lead my thoughts. That's what repetition does. It cements authority. But your repetition must be deliberate. Unconscious repetition breeds dependency. Intentional repetition builds mastery. You can't repeat chaos and expect order. If you want power, your repetitions must align with identity. Ask yourself, what identity am I rehearsing every day? a lazy one or a disciplined one, a victim story or a leader story? Your daily rituals answer that question for you. What you repeat, you reinforce. If you repeat negative self-talk, you carve grooves of self-doubt. If you repeat decisive action, you carve grooves of confidence. You can rebuild any mental state by repeating the behavior of its opposite. You feel stagnant, then move. You feel anxious, then breathe and write. You feel weak, then act strong for 5 minutes. Repetition rewires reality. That's why consistency is so rare, because repetition feels boring. But boredom is the test before mastery. Most people fail the test. They stop when the emotional high disappears. You must outlast boredom. You must learn to love predictability, because consistency is what alchemy feels like from the inside monotony now, transformation later. Every rep counts. Every repetition carves new identity. Stop chasing intensity. Start mastering consistency. Intensity starts change. Repetition sustains change. You want a massive identity shift. Repetition can't be skipped. You can't meditate once and become calm. You can't focus for a week and expect lifelong clarity. You can't be disciplined in bursts and think you've built character. The one who masters repetition becomes predictable in the best way. Predictable under pressure. Predictable in standards. Predictable in promise. Because consistency is what builds trust, within yourself first, then with others. When your mind learns that your actions match your words every single day, your confidence skyrockets. Why? Because you've eliminated internal confusion. There's no longer debate about if you'll do it, only when. That's the level of power repetition creates, a mind trained to obey its own instruction without argument. Nothing rattles that kind of person. So from now on, treat every repetition like a rehearsal for mastery. Every wake-up, every workout, every journal entry, every breath of focus, it all counts. Because every repetition confirms who's in charge, you or your weakness. What you repeat, you reinforce. Say it again before you move on. Let it echo, because that statement alone will save you from those days when the old you knocks and tries to reclaim your throne. When that happens, and it will, you don't debate, you repeat. Repeat the behavior of discipline, repeat the posture of control. Repeat until resistance collapses, because repetition doesn't argue, it conquers. The repetition of standards becomes identity. And when discipline becomes identity, control stops requiring effort. It becomes who you are. But repetition does more than sharpen, it simplifies. It teaches you that mastery isn't complicated, it's just consistent. You can track your life by your repetitions. You're repeating something right now that's making you stronger or weaker. Audit it. Manage it. Reinforce only what builds strength. Repetition isn't glamorous. It's not exciting, but it's absolute. It shapes your identity more than intensity ever could. So live deliberately. Repeat wisely. Reinforce only what deserves your energy. Because control doesn't come from motivation, it comes from repetition. Command your repetitions, and you command your mind. You've learned to starve weakness, to reject comfort, to feed discipline. Now you'll learn to protect the mental energy that fuels all of it, your attention. You've repeated control until it's a reflex. Now, let's direct that focus toward purpose and silence the noise that tries to steal it. You're not distracted by accident, you're distracted by design. Every notification, headline, and post isn't just stealing seconds, it's stealing sovereignty. The world profits from your attention, it feeds on it. You think you're scrolling freely, but you're actually being drained strategically. Attention is currency, and the richest power you can reclaim in a loud world is your focus. This is no conspiracy. This is commerce. If your mind is constantly noisy, someone else is cashing in on your chaos. So if you want control, the first thing you must do is steal your attention back. Detach from noise. Reattach to purpose. That's not poetic, it's survival for your focus. Noise is pollution. It clogs clarity. It kills direction. It numbs your sense of what actually matters. You can't hear purpose when you're addicted to noise. You have a choice. That's the key. Every time you open your phone, every time you let gossip in, every time you entertain drama, you are making a choice to trade clarity for chaos, to give power away voluntarily, and make no mistake, the world will always take what you offer. Distraction isn't passive, it's predatory. It lives off your curiosity, thrives on your reaction, and weaponizes your attention against you, which is why silence must become your rebellion. Silence is your sanctuary. Say it again. Silence is your sanctuary. It's not emptiness, it's power under control, it's clarity reborn. People think silence means doing nothing. Number. Silence means doing the right thing, protecting your thoughts before the noise consumes them. Every day the world floods you with input, sounds, ads, anxiety. You become so mentally crowded that you can't distinguish your ideas from theirs. You think it's harmless, it's not. When your mental bandwidth is occupied, your discipline has nowhere to operate. That's how people lose themselves, not through failure, but through noise. Noise destroys direction. It creates illusions of activity while killing awareness. That's why you can feel busy all day, yet end the night with nothing meaningful done. Silence resets that balance. It's not quiet for the sake of peace, it's quiet for the sake of power. You must build silence into your lifestyle intentionally, because the world will never give it to you. You have to carve it out like a warrior claiming territory. Begin by auditing your digital diet. If attention is currency, you must track your spending. Ask yourself every morning, who gets my focus today? And at night, did what I consume strengthen me or scatter me? That single awareness alone will change everything. Because here's what happens as soon as you limit noise. You start hearing your own mind again. Your thoughts slow down. Your instincts sharpen. Your sense of direction re-emerges. That's the sound of control returning. Silence is your sanctuary. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Purpose cannot exist in a noisy mind. Purpose requires space, mental oxygen to form, to breathe, to grow. And you create that oxygen by detaching from unnecessary input. Start simple. Turn off notifications for 24 hours. Mute the endless group chat. Skip the news cycle for 1 week. At first, silence will feel awkward, empty, even uncomfortable. That's withdrawal from stimulation, not from clarity. You've been conditioned to confuse motion with meaning and noise with relevance. But when you're silent long enough, you start to notice something powerful. Your thoughts have weight again. You begin hearing your true priorities. You realize how much of your anxiety was simply borrowed from external chatter. Noise creates artificial urgency. Silence restores authentic intention. That's why disciplined people feel calm. They curate their input. They guard their time, their attention, their energy. They know the world is loud on purpose, so they design quiet deliberately. That's leadership of self, controlling what enters the mind before it dictates emotion. So here's your practice for mental sovereignty. Step 1. Morning silence. Start each day without noise. No phone, no messages, no stimulation. Just you, your breath, and the day you're about to build. 5 minutes of genuine silence is enough to reset mental authority. That's when your mind realigns with purpose before the world interferes. Step 2. Midday audit. When energy dips, don't look for noise. Step into stillness. Walk without headphones. Sit without scrolling. Let the brain detox from stimulation. You will start noticing thoughts settle and priorities reorder themselves. Step 3. Nighttime reflection. End the day by evaluating noise exposure. Ask, what did I let in today that I didn't need? Then visualize shutting a mental door on each distraction. That ritual alone teaches your subconscious to detach while you sleep. Every disciplined person you admire has one common trait: controlled input. They don't consume everything available. They curate precisely what matters because they know their purpose can't push through static. Silence is your sanctuary. Practice treating silence as skill, not luxury. If you can't sit quietly for 10 minutes, you don't own your mind yet. You're still addicted to outer noise to drown inner noise. When you master silence, you remaster yourself. That's when you begin to operate with command instead of reaction. That's when clarity, creativity, and conviction finally have space to breathe. Noise is easy, silence is earned. And once you taste the strength in silence, you stop craving stimulation. You start craving control. That's what detach from noise, reattach to purpose really means. You're not just unplugging, you're reprogramming. You're reclaiming authority over what deserves your focus and cutting every counterfeit claim to your attention. Remember, clarity isn't found in collecting more information, it's found in deleting what doesn't matter. You're not short on ideas, you're suffocating under too much input. Detach, delete. Defend your mental real estate like a fortress, because the cost of noise is your identity. If you don't filter it, it will filter you. Every message you read, every argument you engage in, every feed you open, it's shaping you minute by minute. So be ruthless about what gets access to your mind. If it doesn't feed purpose, it feeds pollution. That's the fork in the road every disciplined person faces: ownership or overload. You can't live on both tracks. You either chase noise or you protect sovereignty. Reattach to purpose, the true signal underneath the world's static. You'll recognize it instantly when you create enough silence to hear it. Purpose feels still, grounded, certain. It's not loud, it's clean. And once you find it, you'll wonder how you ever mistook noise for direction. So, repeat it one last time, like a command. Silence is your sanctuary. Because in this loud world, silence is not retreat, it's resistance. You've learned how to feed discipline, how to reject weakness, how to focus, and now how to filter. Your mind is no longer a playground for chaos, it's a place of solitude, clarity, and power. Now that you've recentered around purpose, there's one final evolution of mastery, the state where nothing external can shake you anymore. It's the territory beyond reaction, beyond doubt, beyond noise. You've detached from the world's volume. Now you'll learn to become unmovable inside it. This is where mastery begins and where everything else in this book converges. You've learned control, focus, discipline, and response. Now, we strip away the last illusion, the myth that success is about feeling good. The ultimate goal is not positivity, it's neutrality. Life doesn't reward mood, it rewards mastery. And mastery means this: you don't chase highs, you don't run from lows, you stand exactly where you are and decide what happens next. That's the mark of the mastermind, steady logic under shifting emotion, command built on principle, not preference, presence stronger than circumstance. Calm is control, cold is clarity. That line will follow you for life. Say it again. Calm is control, cold is clarity. Calm doesn't mean passive. Cold doesn't mean unfeeling. They mean precision, calculation, authority. The master doesn't burn with emotion. He channels it into outcome. He doesn't scream to prove strength. He acts with silent accuracy. Because he understands reaction is chaos, but composure is command. Every day tests this law. One insult, one failure, one delay, and you're given the same choice: emotion or mastery. Only one leads to control. The world worships positivity, but chasing good vibes is just another dependency. You can't control if life treats you well or not, but you can control whether your inner state depends on it. The master builds peace so deep that it cannot be taken, even when everything else is. That's neutrality. It's the power to stay steady when both success and failure try to pull you off center. Because make no mistake, victory makes some people reckless and defeat makes others hopeless. But the master stays balanced through both because their mind already obeys them. You have a choice. That's the key. The true master operates in logic when the rest of the world drowns in emotion. He doesn't ask, how do I feel about this? He asks, what must I do about this? His compass isn't comfort, it's clarity. He lives by decision, not reaction, by principle, not popularity, by focus, not noise. From the outside, it might look cold, but that cold is controlled precision. It's what keeps him unshaken while others fluctuate with circumstance. Calm is control. Cold is clarity. Think about a sniper on a windy day. He can't command the weather, but he can command his breathing, his focus, his patience. He aligns himself with precision logic, guiding every adjustment, emotion excluded from every trigger pull. That's mastery, not emotionless, but emotion fully managed. Because uncontrolled emotion creates chaos, managed emotion creates momentum. Every master knows this. When you're calm, you see. When you're emotional, you're blind. Clarity and chaos cannot coexist. You can't make strategic moves from a stormed mind. So your mission now is to treat neutrality as the new strength, not robotic stillness, disciplined presence. Here's what that actually looks like in daily life. When someone attacks you, you respond with facts, not feelings. When results don't come fast enough, you act again instead of complaining. When success finally arrives, you stay humble because emotional spikes lead to future crashes. Balance beats both ecstasy and misery. It is the stillness that turns momentum permanent. Neutrality is misunderstood because people think it means apathy, but the opposite is true. Neutrality means depth. It means being rooted so firmly that the wind of circumstance no longer moves you. It's inner stability, not outer stillness. You still feel, you still dream, you still burn with hunger. You've just dethroned emotion from leadership. The mastermind doesn't repress, he regulates. He converts emotion into direction, not distraction. That's why neutrality is the final stage of control. It's total obedience of the mind to principle. Calm is control. Cold is clarity. Repeat it until it's fused to your reflex. When frustration spikes, calm. When excitement screams, cold. Every time, every moment, every decision, hold the line. The world will call your calm indifference. Ignore them. People who can't regulate their emotions call composure cold because it exposes their impulsiveness. Let them react. You stay deliberate. You're not here to prove emotion, you're here to own it. Decisiveness grows from this state because when you're calm, you think clearly. And when you think clearly, you act precisely. There's nothing more powerful than a person who can look chaos in the face and think straight. They move with strategy while everyone else panics. That's leadership. That's self-command manifesting as external power. A master walks through failure like it's training, through victory like it's feedback. Both outcomes are data, not definitions. He remains unmoved because mastery isn't about success, it's about steadiness. You don't become calm by waiting for life to quiet down, you become calm by training calm under fire. Learn to breathe through the argument, through the delay, through the setback. Learn to act when your blood is hot, but your decisions must stay cool. That's how cold is clarity becomes a skill, not a slogan. Start practicing neutrality at small scales. When you miss a deadline, neutral. When you hear criticism, neutral. When you hit a milestone, neutral. Then scale upward. The more neutrality you can sustain in movement, the more freedom you gain from outcome. This doesn't mean nothing matters. It means nothing owns you. You can care deeply and still act calmly. You can pursue passionately and still decide rationally. That's mastery. Passion guided by logic, not consumed by it. The mastermind isn't loud, it's consistent. It doesn't fluctuate, it operates. It executes. An unmoved consistency outperforms emotional brilliance every single time. While others waste energy flaring up and collapsing, the master sets rhythm, builds momentum, and keeps advancing. When the world celebrates him, he keeps perspective. When the world forgets him, he keeps producing. Because his peace isn't borrowed, it's built into his foundation. You build that peace through control over thought, focus, emotion, repetition, and now neutrality. This is the final loop, the complete circle. Calm is control. Cold is clarity. Not just a phrase, a lifestyle. The mastermind understands that emotion colors judgment and judgment shapes action. So he filters every impulse through logic first, emotion second, and because of that, he never wastes movement. That's what the truly unshakable look like. They don't chase good days or run from bad days. They stay centered because their mind already obeys them. They lead themselves through chaos with the same stillness they lead through success. Every moment calculated, every decision grounded, every response detached from noise. That's the final evolution of control command without tension, strength without strain, fire without frenzy. You don't need to be positively charged to be powerful. You need to be poised, calm, cold, decisive, untouched by circumstance. That's where mastery lives. So when tomorrow comes, and it will, with interruptions, rejections, surprises, and noise, remember this. You don't need the world to calm down. You are the calm. You don't need clarity handed to you. You create it through composure. You don't need certainty. You are certainty. Calm is control. Cold is clarity. That's the creed of the mastermind. Live it, repeat it, prove it. You've completed the circle. Thought discipline, emotional regulation, action under fire, focus, repetition, silence, control, and now balance. You no longer just manage your life, you lead it. You are unreactive, you are sovereign, you are controlled, and that's mastery. But remember, mastery is never finished, it's maintained. So as this discipline deepens, we arrive at your final challenge, not a lesson, but a declaration. Now that you are calm, cold, and decisive, it's time to take command of the rest of your life. Control your mind, or it will control you. Your laziness here is a form of disrespect to yourself. You woke up this morning with breath in your lungs, time on your hands, ideas in your mind, and the ability to act. Yet every time you choose comfort over effort, you waste what you've been given. You're not stuck. You're stalling. You're not too tired and you're too distracted. You've let convenience become your master. You've made your feelings stronger than your focus, and you've allowed comfort to rob you of purpose. You weren't made to live on autopilot. You were built with intention, to create, to build, to grow. There are people, opportunities, and possibilities waiting on your action, but you keep waiting for motivation, like it's supposed to fall out of the sky. Stop asking for results from work you haven't started. You want doors to open? Then walk toward them. This isn't about hustle, it's about honor. Honor your potential, honor your time, honor the mission you know you're meant for. Every time you choose laziness, you drift further from who you were meant to become. Discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. Action doesn't always feel good, but it always produces growth. Nothing can multiply from what you refuse to move. So get up, move forward, start building what's inside you. You're not empty, you're just idle.